Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is Friday, September 16th, 2022. This is the Sipstack podcast on Substack, read by myself, author Ryan Cipriani. In a little bit of a slightly different kind of atmosphere in here today. Thought I'd move it out into the living room, next to our big comfy, cozy writer's couch over here, and you might see some dog hair on it. You might actually see my dog walk through. It is Friday. There is house cleaning to be done. We're all human, and I need to vacuum everything. My dog is an absolute terror of a shredder. A shredder and a shedder. Anyway, that's that's quite enough of me waxing philosophical about changing locations. Today's article, or today's edition, is entitled 5 Things Every Self-Published Author Needs, Print and Distribution, and Lessons in Making Mistakes from Eastern Philosophers. It's a lunchtime newsletter. We've made it to the end of the week, everyone. Great work. You did it. Quick housekeeping update. Because I'm a day behind on the newsletter after my early week travel disruptions, I am going to post tomorrow and a Sunday with SIP newsletter. So I'm going to be hanging out with you all for the whole weekend. Isn't that great? Also, today's main story is a little more complicated, and I went longer trying to explain some of the nuances than I expected. Even still, I'm not totally satisfied with the level of detail that I provided, and I may do a full series on distribution and printing at a later date. As a consequence, though, I'm cutting my very long books culture piece for the day, and just to keep the newsletter nice and tight. Originally, when I wrote it this morning, said this morning, may your coffee be bright and warm and your world calm and quiet. At this point, with it being the lunch hour, hopefully you have a nice afternoon tea or something like that, if you like life that way. Otherwise, I wish unto you much chaos and disruption. All right, on with the show. Article 1, Printing and Distribution. As you get closer to actually releasing your work, the next thing a self-published author is going to need is a print and a distribution service. Now, there's an important difference to make here because they're not necessarily the same thing. And while some services do offer both in-house, depending on your needs and sales plan, you may end up looking for separated services. Printing companies or bookbinding services literally just create books. Sort of like a screen printing company for custom t-shirts. You send them your book file, the cover art, specifications, they create a run of books for you. Now, they almost always require a minimum printing run, usually around 50 to 100 books. This means depending on the cost per unit, upfront costs could be a couple $100s for your initial print run. Distribution and wholesale companies actually put books out into the world. They are the point of sale and sometimes delivery for your book to retailers, libraries, and other resellers. When it comes to distribution services, there are dozens, and there are some awesome blogs out there to help you keep track of them all. I actually, when I'm looking for distribution, one of the ones that I go to is Reedsy, Reedsy. They keep a running list of some of the distribution services that will work with independent authors. That is an addendum, by the way, just for listeners. It's not actually listed in the Substack article. Again, I want to go back and do a much more detailed piece just on distribution and wholesale because there's a lot of nuance that kind of gets missed in a 500-word article. So distributors will also market your book to you, to the bookstores. This is usually at a cost per unit, and they will not work with everyone. There is an application process, and your work likely has to fall in the realm of something they feel is marketable given what current reading trends are. Now, wholesalers, on the other hand, provide no marketing services, but are simply a portal through which retailers can order your book for their shelves. In the case of self-published and indie authors, there are really only 2 names that you need to be aware of in the wholesale business. They are Ingram Spark and Kindle Direct Publishing by Amazon. Even in this space, the most widely accepted is Ingram Spark. And while KDP is expanding its distribution network, you'll almost certainly want Ingram handling your material. Now, a final note on this part of the process. Some wholesalers also offer in-house bookbinding services. Both KDP and Ingram have this available. There is sometimes a fee for initial setup, although KDP is free. But you don't have to order print runs in bulk. Your book is printed on demand when an order for it is placed. Now, this is a distinct advantage when it comes to keeping your costs and storage down. Y'all, this is another editorial just for listeners. Don't forget, books take up space. And so if you go through a print service just to get your initial run created, and you have to order 100 books at a time, that means you need the space to store 100 books. Now again, there are advantages either way, but if you're tight on space like me, I'm living in a 500 square foot studio apartment. I just don't have the space for a print run like that. Now, it can also disadvantage you, though, because it locks you into the platform when you go through a wholesaler that also does print on demand. Migrating files between KDP and Ingram Spark, which I've done a series on because it was such a headache, or to other distributors, it can either be a total hassle or outright impossible. Other distributors may not decide to work with your book if it's already locked onto one platform. So that's just some things to kind of keep in mind. This can require you, if you then want to distribute through another distributor, to set up your book with another printer, which is at additional fees, so that they can handle the material. Now, I can't tell you which method of print and distribution I would recommend, as it so depends on what your business plan is for your book. If it's just something you want to create for friends and family, see if you can find a boutique, low volume printing service. If you want to go wide and have a highly marketable story, then you definitely need to spend some time researching printers and distributors that you think you could work with. Now, my personal journey has taken me through KDP and Ingram Spark. I find that they make a nice enough product and are usually timely with their deliveries to serve my purposes. Now, as I grow as an indie author, however, that could change. Remember, your first strategy is just that. It's a first. This is just getting the book off the ground and out into the world. There is space to grow and evolve. Be forewarned though, with growth and evolution usually comes a cost. So be sure you're investing in a strategy that you think is going to last for a bit. And when I say a cost, I don't necessarily, this again, for listeners, you're getting a lot of extra information and thoughts on this. When I talk about costs, I'm not talking about like an emotional toll, I mean financial costs. There is absolutely nothing that will stop you from moving a book into a new distribution source. It just usually requires additional capital in order to do so. If you are a self-published indie author, I'm assuming that you are probably not the most, resource. You don't have the resources to tap into some of these other big ones. Like myself, I'm just a working class dude who put a bunch of fantasy books out in the world. So that's something to be aware of. If you don't have the finances to, pivot at a moment's notice, you need to make sure that you are making the most strategic decisions for yourself at the time. And for me, it's been KDP and Ingram Spark. So unless you have unlimited money, as I said, but then if you do have unlimited money, why are you reading my newsletter? Go talk to Warren Buffett or something. I bet he could get you a publishing deal. Article 2, mistakes. Writers make mistakes. Artists make mistakes. Mistakes are part of your growth trajectory as an author and culture creator. You're going to make them. You need to get comfortable with that fact. No first draft is ever perfect. I don't care how amazing of a writer you are. Being able to look at your mistakes, acknowledge them without emotion, and learn the appropriate lesson from them is a critical part of your development as a writer. Now, I don't have better words for this than Lao Tzu. When they make a mistake, they realize it. Having realized it, they admit it. Having admitted it, they correct it. They consider those who point out their faults as their greatest teachers. Perfect. No notes. I'm not even going to pontificate further on this. It's everything you need to know about making mistakes. Realize it, admit it, correct it, learn from it. You want a 4-step process for success in anything and everything? That's it. Now, Sun Tzu is attributed to have said, correct your mistakes as soon as you have found it. Sun Tzu actually had some pretty severe ideas about mistakes and their threat to success, but he also believed in essentially making all of your mistakes during the planning process, not the execution phase. What I like so much about this quote is the urgency of action in it. Don't wait, don't falter, don't beat yourself up, recognize a mistake and just correct it. If you recognize something has gone wrong, do something about it. Simple as that. Like I said, we're going to keep it tight and clean today, everyone. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be concluding our series on the 5 things every self-published author needs. And along with a last nugget of Eastern wisdom, I'll be recommending one more really long book for you to take on this winter. See you tomorrow, everyone.